Hell. Hey, good day, guys. Welcome to the show. Today we have Jasmine Hampton Nicholson in the house. She's a nurse manager who found her roots in sterile processing. We'll be right back. Hello, guys. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome, Jasmine. How are you?
I'm excellent today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Nice to have you on. Today, we want to find out a little more about you, a little bit about you. You found your roots in sterile processing and now you're a nurse manager. Can you tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about your journey coming from sterile processing to becoming a nurse manager?
So, the way that I actually got into the medical field was through becoming a surgical technologist. And in those early days of my career, I was not successful in locating a job in the OR directly. So, I actually started out as working in sterile processing. And I really feel that it gave me such a great foundation for the rest of my career. It really showed me how critical and important the work that I did as a sterile processing technician and then segueing into the OR. It greatly increased my knowledge of instrumentation, of that workflow. And I think that in my career as a leader, it has really showed me the importance of developing that relationship between your sterile processing department and the OR. I know that sometimes it can be an intense relationship between the two when things don't go according to plan. But because I had a background in it, it helped to support me in building a bridge between the two departments.
Very interesting. So you have uh experience with the workflow within sterile processing and the workflow within the OR. What are the similarities between those two departments?
So the key similarity, I think, is that you are doing patient care. And I think that sometimes there can be a disconnect in sterile processing that there's actually a patient on the end result of the work that you're doing. That's why it's so very important. Um, when you think of it with that mindset that I'm directly taking care of a patient, it increases your desire to want to do it right each time. The importance of inspecting your instruments, the importance of completing a thorough decon, and being able to kind of have those safety nets in place to hopefully prevent errors or mistakes from happening. It's critical to everything that we do that we have a strong setup right from the beginning. It's just as important to me as opening the instruments and pulling up to the field. Is making sure that we have everything prepared and ready to go appropriately.
Yes, and as we know, this is a very stressful um, position, being in the OR and being in cell processing. Both of them are stressful positions.
Yes.
Can you tell us how you got into cell processing and how you dealt with the stress of moving up within the ranks?
So, when I got into sterile processing, many of the people that I work with, and this is years ago, probably back in 2003, many of the individuals that I worked with at that time kind of learned the job on the job. There wasn't any formalized training that was available for technicians back then. As a matter of fact, the person who onboarded me in the OR had been trained on the job and never did a formal surgical tech program, as well as the older person who had trained me in CSS. She also had not gone to a formal program. They were knowledgeable, but a lot of the things that they did and did well were through kind of trial and error or done out of tradition. It wasn't anything that was evidence based. Both environments are high stress or can be high stress environments. But what happens is in CSS, the phone ringing, the constant interruptions, the load coming out are all things that stop you along the way in your process of assembling the set. So you sit down to assemble a tray, you get called to the phone for something else. You're going back to assemble the tray, and now you have to pull the autoclave has come down and you're pulling those items out. Or
Hmm.
someone was waiting for a scope and you're processing that. So there's like a little bit, or can be a little bit of a back and forth. There's always distractions. But
True.
that's the same thing that happens in the OR. There are demands or things that are being asked for by the surgeon. Your circulating nurse is asking you for items. As far as being a scrub person, the phone is ringing in there if I'm in a role of circulating nurse. So all of
Hmm.
those things um, impact your workflow and can be very stressful at times. I think
True.
that the disconnect sometimes for OR staff versus being in downstairs in CSS, you may notice that you did one case, but
Hmm.
one case cart for that one case that you did could represent 15 trays of instruments for the people in downstairs in CSS. And sometimes you don't get it. You're like, well, I only did one case so far today, but your one case can
Right.
be, 15 or 20 trays, especially if we're talking about a large spine case or ortho case.
Hmm.
It's very stressful, or can be. What I find the number one way to mitigate that is excellent communication and communication with your peers. It has to be a team effort. Every time you try to run around and do everything yourself is where you see all of the mistakes. When you don't partner with your peers or partner with your supervisor to say, L&D is calling for C-section sets, but I'm trying to get the trays wrapped in the autoclave for an emergency add-on ortho case that's happening at 5. If you don't partner with that person or have that good communication, then you're always going to, have issues with not being able to get the task done. Um, you have to have some ability to multitask wherever you are, but I'm sorry about that, kind
No,
of
that's
the
okay.
ability to circle it back in and get to refocus on the task at hand. You
Hmm.
know, it's the
Yeah.
same thing. I think that having that skill set that I built down in CSS and as a circulator, as a scrub tech in the OR, that ability to listen, to use my resources, to be able to multitask along the way, all of those things kind of have grown me in my career and kind of segued into my leadership style as well. Knowing how to kind of partner when you need to.
Uh, yeah. Um, you touched on a couple of things earlier in terms of education. How do you feel like the formal education of cell processing and OR nurses has changed in the years since you came up?
Oh man, it's really grown in leaps and bounds. I was educated by you when we worked together at an institution and learned so much about Amy and Isham and all of the steps that they're taking to kind of make it not something that we do because we've always done it that way, but really make it something that's evidence based. It's obvious to me that there is a strong partnership with the AORN and the way that we do things and the way that these two organizations have kind of come together to give us the best case scenario for maintaining instruments, caring for patients, and growing as a field. I think as an OR, now as an OR nurse, that the industry has grown in leaps and bounds, and there will always be things that we do that we felt like were the right thing. And then as we move forward, we learned that, that still was based on tradition. There really wasn't evidence to support that. I think that in general in healthcare, we have moved away from doing things out of this sense of tradition. It's always worked. It was never a problem before. To segue into, well, where's the evidence that supports that what we're doing is right? I know that there hasn't been an issue, but could there potentially be a risk to the patient? So it has really grown tremendously. Even some of the regulations for sterile processing techs, now there's regulation that you have to be certified.
Yeah.
And now that has also segued over to surgical techs, where there was a new regulation that was passed in the state of Pennsylvania that you have to have your certification to work in the OR. So it's like
Hmm.
the all of these organizations are catching up to what has already become kind of an industry standard everywhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Definitely. I agree. You touched on a couple of things. Um, in terms of education, what in education and a stressful environment, what motivated you to go from being uh, SPD tech, surgical tech, to OR manager to where you are right now? What motivated you to take those steps to get that education to move up the
Mhm.
ladder?
So my initial thought process, once I was a processing tech and OR tech, was I loved doing that job. I really loved it. And initially, I had no desire to go into nursing at all. I was very happy as a surgical tech. I was a surgical tech instructor. And I did that job for a long time, and I loved it. I've always been passionate about teaching and growing people. So for me, I thought that the instructor job was going to be where I would finish out my career. Like a lot of technical schools during the time, though, the school that I was employed by, they went out of business, and that drove me back to the bedside. Once I was back working in the OR, I just felt like the level of care that I could provide to my patients was somewhat restricted. I wanted to grow and get to the next level of that of care, and also financially, I wanted to be able to make more money to support my family. So um, nursing seemed like the next logical step.
Hmm.
I've always felt like no matter what role that I've been in or what I've done, that, I've always been a person that stepped forward, wanted to help people, wanted to grow others and develop them. So that desire to be a leader has always been something that's in me. And once I went back to school, it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get my
Yeah.
nursing degree. It was not easy being a full time employee, having a family with two young kids at the time, and my husband. So it was a challenge with going to school, even part time while working full time. But I am proof that it can be done with a little perseverance and some resiliency. So
Wow.
once I became a nurse, it was it really opened my eyes to all of the different roles that people have in the OR. I think that you can make a lot of assumptions about what you think other people are doing. And I always had this assumption that, oh, my circulating nurse is, they're just chilling, sitting by the computer, not doing anything. But it's a lot of responsibility, a lot of hard work that goes into keeping everyone together and flowing forward and on the right page. So I'm very grateful and so excited to be in this profession as well as nursing, just as I was when I was a surgical tech and worked in sterile processing. So once I got into nursing, I started to take on more roles in the OR. Was our staffing coordinator, was a weekend coordinator, was a charge nurse. At the particular hospital I was at the time, it was a magnet level hospital. I was a clinical nurse 3, and I worked hard and did various projects to get to that level. The weekend coordinator is kind of what led me to think that I was ready to be a nurse manager, and I was able to secure a position at a community hospital, which was incredibly valuable to me because, like most community hospitals, there's not a lot of resources. It forces you to learn all of the jobs and to build relationships and network.
Mhm.
So I was able to come in there with my knowledge and experience and expertise and grow that team and develop them and keep things moving to the next level. But I learned an incredible amount. Currently, I am working at a level one trauma center, a magnet level hospital, and have kind of had all of the jobs, so to speak, in
Right.
perioperative services, except for being a PA or a physician, obviously. And that kind of led me to the place where I'm at now, where I am a senior nurse manager with other managers that are reporting up to me. And a large staff of 123 FTEs. I'm managing the biggest unit in the department where I'm at. And the sterile processing department plays a key role and is a key partnership in keeping things moving in a facility that's as busy as we are. We
Wow.
do up to currently do up to average around 14,000 cases a year.
Wow.
Mhm.
So, guys, Jasmine is proof it can be done. you can you can go from assembling trays to managing the OR. So,
Yes.
she is an example. So, when we come back, guys, we're taking a short break. We'll get some insights and tips and tricks Jasmine used to move ahead. There are things you may not know until you actually get into it. So, we'll be right back. We'll take a 30-second break, a little commercial break, and then we'll be right back and ask Jasmine for those quick little pointers. All right. So, guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. We have
Mhm.
Jasmine Hampton Nicholson here. She's a nurse manager and she came from Sterile Processing. She's going to give us a couple tips and tricks on how she got where she got, things you wouldn't know until you actually went through the process.
Mhm.
So, what was your most difficult part of getting to where you're at now? And what was the most rewarding part of that also?
So, if I have to think about the most difficult part, probably was people saying that I couldn't do it, or
Mhm.
why do you want to do that? You know, you're not going to be successful at it. You will find that there are people who are doing the same job as you, and when you're striving to grow or get to the next level, I'm not going to say it's so much that, as my kids would say, that they're being haters, but it's more or less that there is a fear factor in them that they feel like they couldn't do those things or couldn't grow in that way or wouldn't want to try it or don't believe in themselves that they could move to the next level. And for me, I had to find that voice within myself and kind of trust your gut that this is the next right step. I kind of feel like if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, but I'm going to give it a try because you don't want to live your life or your experiences with regrets that, wow, I should have applied for that job or I should have, educated myself or took advantage of it. At the one place where I was at when I went to nursing school, there were tons of phenomenal experienced techs, both in sterile processing and also in the OR, who were at their cap. They were like, well, this is it. I'm just working and I love it. And they
Mhm.
were amazing techs. but did not take advantage of employee tuition plans. And when I did, it was like, oh, okay, well, now you're going to switch up on us if you become a nurse, kind of that attitude and mindset.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm going to be the same person I've always been. I'm just developing myself and growing myself. There will always be people who feel like, especially if you are new to a job, that you need to earn your rank, so to speak, that you must do a job for 10 years or 5 years or 15 years before growing to the next level. And that's absolutely not true. If there's anything that would encourage everyone to do is to continuously be educating yourself, educating about your field, and learning about other things that you can do. No one has to be a one trick pony. As one of the nurses that I used to work with will frequently say to me, don't put yourself in the box, Jasmine. You don't have to be a one trick pony. Meaning that because you know one thing or you've mastered one thing doesn't mean that you can't segue into something else and do something different. As a sterile processing tech, you can become a board member, get involved with your organization, excuse me, attend conferences so you can see what else is out there. It's a great way to network and see what all of your options are and do your best to take advantage of them everywhere you can. I think that to answer your second question, the most rewarding thing that has happened from all of the ways that I have grown in my careers and all of my careers is developing someone else to the next level, encouraging others around me to go for it, to move forward, and really to be an example for my family and for my children. That if you work hard for stuff and put your mind to it, that you can achieve it, and that my path doesn't necessarily have to be your path, but you should always be striving to be your best and improve yourself.
Mm, well said. Well said. Well said. Well said. Now I feel motivated. I need to go study something now. Yeah. So yeah, you've been a really big inspiration to me. Thank you, because we know each other,
Yes.
on the outside. So thank you so much for everything that you do, all the advice you've given me.
Hmm.
We do have a few more minutes. Any particular advice you want to give to anyone? Not necessarily from cell processing, but any level
Mm.
that they're at right now.
Mm.
Anything you know that you want to
I
impart.
cannot emphasize enough how important it is to educate yourself. Whatever field you're in, don't just take someone's word that is law. If you are questioning it, a lot of times when you're doing something, you get that little gnawing feeling in your gut that you're not sure or it doesn't feel right, or someone said, well, you should do X, Y, and Z. A lot of times we tend to ignore that little gnawing in your gut because the other person may seem to have more authority or be in a position that's over you, but you have to trust your gut and question things. You can do it in a way that is, not condescending or to put anybody off, but that you want to know the facts and you want to know that the information that you have is legit. And the key to that is educating yourself. Um, don't be afraid to try new things or, to just jump out there and go for it. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. So you have nothing but time. Sometimes people say, oh, you're too old to do that or too old to, change careers or switch things up. And I could not agree more with that. When I went back to school to become a nurse, I was an adult learner. I had two kids, a husband, a mortgage, all of the things. And I was still able to do it with support from my family, obviously, but with a determination that I wanted to see it through and get it completed. So there's never too late to switch things up. I've had through this journey multiple career changes. I was sterile processing. I was in the OR. I was a surgical tech instructor. Again, I was a charge nurse. I was a weekend coordinator. I was a nurse manager and now a senior nurse manager. And although all of those things are along the same pathway, I continued to move forward with each step. And sometimes when I jumped into the role, I hadn't been doing it for a long time, and maybe I didn't have the most experience, but I had a willingness to do the hard work and to jump in and to see it through. So,
Hmm. Hmm. I like that. I like that. I like that. Just persevere and keep pushing, keep stepping, keep moving forward.
yep.
Jasmine, so since we covered a little bit of stress earlier, what do you do to deal with stress? I know you have your little candles things.
Yes. So, to deal with the stress at work, for as far as my office goes at work, I try to create an environment that I feel is comforting, is relaxing. I'm very big on fragrance. I don't burn a candle in the hospital, but I do have a candle. I do have a candle warmer. So when I walk into my office, it's very inviting. I have family photos there, and little mementos that I've either been given as gifts or things I've acquired along the way that bring me a sense of peace and comfort. Sometimes I will take 5 minutes in my day and meditate. If I'm feeling particularly stressed, this is something I did a few weeks ago because the weather was great. I actually went outside for a few minutes, sat in the sunshine, listened to a little bit of guided meditation to just kind of relax myself and bring myself down. Working in a trauma center can be extremely challenging just by how critically injured the patients are, trying to support the staff. And it can be overwhelming. I mean, that's just keeping it real. Sometimes for me, ways that I de-stress is when I'm going into work, I try to listen to music that gets me pumped. And when I'm leaving work, sometimes I either will drive with like some smooth jazz on, something with not a lot of wording, just so I can decompress to make that transition back to my family, and that I feel present and available for them, and I'm not bringing work home, so to speak. But meditation, the pandemic has kind of limited the way that we travel, but I recently just came back from a great vacation in Aruba. I was able to get there and get home safely, and just try to set those timeout periods for myself periodically to just get away from everything and switch up your environment. So that's how I
Definitely,
manage my
definitely.
stress.
I like that. I like that, and I see it's working for you. I know we had some stressful times, but I see you had
Yes.
your little calm space, and I'm trying to do that too. I have my little candle warmer now too.
Oh,
So
yay!
yeah,
Great.
yeah, yeah. So I'm following the lead. I'm following the lead a little bit.
Yes.
So so definitely. So we had a good interview.
Mhm.
We got to know you a little bit. We got to get some info on how to move up in the world, how um to strive for better. Um,
Yes.
we definitely saw an example in what you're doing, coming from being a sterile processing technician now to basically running your own operating room.
Mhm.
Um, so I really appreciate you coming out. Thank you so much for your time. So, guys,
Sure.
one word to my audience, please, if you're watching this video later, please go and like and subscribe. Like and subscribe to the show. If you're watching on YouTube, and definitely, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you, Jasmine, so much for
Oh,
coming
you're
on.
welcome.
I know you brought a lot of value to other people, and definitely, if people reach out to me, I'll definitely contact you about letting them get some more advice if you're willing to share
Absolutely.
some more. But thank you so much, and guys, thank you so much for tuning to the show, and we'll be out. Thank you. Peace.
Bye. Have a great